Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's FIU's Biscayne Bay Campus Town Hall meeting. We are very happy that you have joined us today. In particular, I want to welcome our students that have joined us, as well as our faculty members and staff, and in particular, our community that has also joined us as well. A very special shout out as well to our Vice Provost Council, as we have many members that have joined us in our call today. So just as a reminder, today is just another in a series of town halls that we have put together to help answer as many questions as possible, to provide you up-to-date information, and to ensure that in this time of great uncertainty, in a situation that is quite fluid, that we are trying as much as possible to keep you up to date so that you are aware as to what the university decisions are, what we're going to do moving forward, and how you should be making those plans accordingly to get ready for this fall semester. As I mentioned, this town hall is specific to BBC. However, we are committed to answering every question that you ask, and we are going to be looking at those questions as we go throughout the town hall session and answering those, as well as we have been collecting your questions over the last several days and are prepared to answer those questions, and will do so. Speaking of questions, we ask, as the town hall is progressing, that you use the Q&A function for today's meeting. Do not use the chat function. That will be deactivated for the Q&A portion, but there is a Q&A option that you can use, and we encourage you as much as possible to use that option so that we, again, can see all of these questions. I can route it to the appropriate people, and we can answer the questions here on this Zoom call. So a couple of things will be taking place. We have a wonderful team of panelists that I'll be introducing in just a moment that are here to answer your questions live, as well as provide you up-to-date information on a number of different areas for the university. We also have an entire behind-the-scenes team that is ready and available to be answering those questions on the Q&A for you, so that you get those the answers to the many questions I'm sure that you have. So with that, before we introduce the panelists and we get started with today's Zoom, I want to ask you to join me on a special treat. We've prepared a wonderful brief video to help show you the great accomplishments and the many great things that are happening at our Biscayne Bay campus. If you remember last year, we started off the year with a fantastic kickoff celebration where we talked about the 3 E's. We talked about the importance of experience, of enrollment in education, and of course, engagement in our community. And we committed at that point to take an introspective look in terms of how we see ourselves, how we come together as a team, and work collaboratively to change the view at BBC. Well, what you're going to see speaks for itself. It truly demonstrates that when great minds come together for the right reasons, great things can be accomplished. And with that, as you're watching the video, I encourage you to think of this upcoming year. This upcoming year will be challenging, you know, but together we can achieve anything that we set our minds to. So as you sit back and watch the video, instead of change the view, I ask you to enjoy the view. Cue the video.
From the beginning.
What an amazing video, and I want to thank everyone who put that together. And it's just a small taste and a sampling of all the great things that have happened at BBC and are awaiting not yet. But when you come to our campus here at the Biscayne Bay, we are ready to give you an incredible experience. But we also want to remind you that BBC, we've always said, is very unique. But we like to say that we're not unique because we're different. We're unique at BBC because we choose to be outstanding. And we know that this is going to be an outstanding year. So with that, let me take a moment to introduce the great panelists that we have that are here, ready and willing to answer your questions and provide you valuable information. I'll start off with our president, Dr. Mark B. Rosenberg, who we'll be hearing from in just a few minutes. Also our provost, Kenneth Furton, Senior Vice President, Elizabeth Behar, Vice President, Elpanya Hudson, our AVP, Charlie Andrews, Senior Director, Scott Jones, also Senior Director, Andrew Naylor, our CEO of FIU Healthcare Network, Anita Roldan, and our very own from FIU Police, Major George Gomez. So I want to thank you all for joining us and being part of this panel. So with that, let me introduce the man who set the vision for this university, the man who was a resident of the Biscayne Bay campus and continues to keep us focused on what's important, and that is our students' education, and of course, the well-being of our entire university. Fifth president of FIU, Dr. Mark B. Rosenberg.
Thank you so much, Pablo. Love that swinging video. I think it represents the vibe very well. It's very real what we're doing at the Biscayne Bay campus. I want to thank our Vice Provost Council. I know many of them are connected with us this afternoon. So important to making sure that we can fully leverage the incredible beauty, the incredible resources, the incredible learning opportunity that is our Biscayne Bay campus. So I wanna thank you for that. So Pablo mentioned that we're gonna have the best year yet, and probably the most challenging year yet. Make no mistake about it. Members of our community, and but I got to tell you that the experience we've had since March, that the experience we've just gone through this summer is incredibly uplifting. Do you realize that we have graduated about 11,500 students in the last 4 months? Individuals who have gone through a lot in order to get their educations. Individuals who have used their hope to push out fear, who have used their determination to drive success, who have believed deeply in what we do at our FIU, and who have wanted to be a part of that. So I gotta tell you, I'm very, very encouraged and feel the uplift of what our institution accomplishes as we go into this new fall semester. Each and every one of you should celebrate the milestone of our students and their achievement and their success. Each and every one of you has contributed to that at our very purpose-driven, mission-oriented institution. And there's no doubt in my mind, that the lessons that we have learned over the last few months are going to help to ensure that the educations that our new learners are going to have, starting with this new semester, are going to ensure that their education is going to be the outstanding education that we know that we can provide. I do want to, as I've done in the past, ask you for a moment of silence for the thousands and thousands who have perished and who are sick because of COVID-19, including a member of our own community. I want to take a moment of silence now. Thank you. In particular, we think of Fatima Alvarez, who is no longer with us, and we're mourning her and supporting her family. I also want to ask for a moment of silence for all those who have died because of the needless violence and the forebears of some who were enslaved against the laws of civility and righteousness. As you know, we have just received a first draft of our Equity Action Initiative that has been led by Elpanya Hudson, Delrish Moss, and Valerie Patterson, and we will soon be having serious discussions about that. So if I could have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Now, as you know, we've chosen to remain in remote mode through the summer. And as we initiate a new round of classes on August the 24th, some will be face-to-face, conditions permitting. Others will be hybrid, but most are going to be remote, synchronous, or fully online. Please stay connected with us as we make sure that as we continue to go through this very fluid environment, we are maximizing student, faculty, and professional health safety, and as we determine which classes are being offered when. I know that we will have an announcement out, I believe, sometime this week about that. Also note that our essential services are going to continue. Most will be in remote, but our libraries will be open. Our university center, Wolf University Center, and our Graham Center will be open, and we will have study areas set aside for our hardworking students, many of whom would prefer still to come to the university to do their studies, to get the time and the peace of mind so that they can get through their studies and keep up with their classes. So we intend for this university to continue to provide a very high level of services for our students. Look, the truth is the life of the mind can't be put on hold. We are going to find a way this new semester to transcend the difficulties that we have so we can keep all of our students moving towards their degree, towards their piece of the American dream. And we're here this afternoon because we're curious. We want to know how you're feeling, what you're thinking about, what some of the issues are, particularly as they would relate to our beautiful Biscayne Bay campus, but of course, more generally about the university. So our conversation today is really focused on listening to you, on listening to our professional staff, on listening to our students, on listening to our faculty, to make sure that now more than ever, we work together. Now more than ever, we find ways to collaborate and support each other. And now more than ever, we prepare ourselves to show the world that we can do this, regardless of this deadly pandemic, that we can continue to provide the educational opportunities that we were created to offer. So I want to thank you for being with us this afternoon. I'm going to listen very intently. Thank you so much for your questions and your attention. Pablo, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. President, for those thoughtful and inspirational words. And we all truly appreciate your leadership during these very uncertain and difficult times. And we know that the future is positive because of the effort and the care that you have taken in moving us forward through this time. So with that, I'm going to go over to our next great leader here at the university, the one who leads all of our academic efforts and sets the plan moving forward to how we're going to prepare not only for the fall, but for after this fall, right? Hopefully post-pandemic. And it's my pleasure to introduce the provost, Dr. Kenneth G. Furton.
Thank you, Pablo. Good afternoon, And I just want to start off by thanking all of the incredible students and the faculty and the staff from this beautiful Biscayne Bay campus. And on behalf of your deans who are here on the line representing the College of Arts, Sciences, and Education, the College of Communication, Architecture, and the Arts, the Chaplain School of Hospitality, the Business School, and the College of Nursing and Health Sciences. I want to assure all of you that we are here to support you and provide the best possible education under these current circumstances. I want to thank all of you for your patience as we've not navigated these very uncertain times. And I want to thank you for your continued commitment, particularly the faculty and staff, to help our students who have been dealing with extremely challenging times over the past year now. And I just want to assure everyone that we are committed to, first and foremost, your success, but also trying to provide the optimal learning platform for you. As the president mentioned, we have a number of options for our courses. The majority of our courses will be offered in either synchronous remote or online formats, as well as there will be a significant number, a small number, but a still significant number of students who will be taking courses in person as well as in hybrid courses starting on August 24th. Right now we have about 1,200 students at the Biscayne Bay campus registered for those online campus options, and we'll be letting you know in the next few days about some adjustments we will be making to improve the health and safety of our students for those coming on campus. When you come on campus, you'll see substantial signage around campus related to COVID-19, including social distancing and as well as making sure that everyone's wearing their face coverings. You'll see reconfigured classrooms. Over 1,000 faculty have actually received badges on Remote Teach Ready, so they are taking additional training on how to best educate students in this new remote format for those who are not coming onto campus. I also just want to let everyone know that now more than ever, Biscayne Bay and the Biscayne Bay campus is the core to the future of FIU. As the president said, this is going to be the best year we've ever had. Just not very long ago, the president and I were at the Board of Governors presenting what we were asked to present was, what is one area of distinction that you want to be known for so that you would be a university of distinction? And FIU chose environmental resilience. And I can tell you, the president and I were standing there in front of the chair of the Board of Trustees, the chancellor, and all the other, the chair of the Board of Governors and all the other governors. And we pitched this environmental resilience program. And we mentioned that we have a long history from saving the Aquarius reef base down south, helping save the Everglades to the west, and saving and continuing to work to save Biscayne Bay, the home of this beautiful campus. So you will be hearing more about the rankings that we've already achieved, top 50 rankings in many different areas, and we will achieve top 50 in U.S. News and World Report in the next few years. And many of the programs at Biscayne Bay are going to be key to that. Just to highlight, we're ranked number 48 in the United States in environment and ecology in U.S. News and World Report. And of course, our hospitality school is ranked number 1, including our Marriott School in China, where we've been for more than a decade. And that's the program leading us in our global presence. And then in CARTA, you'll hear about a new initiative working with other colleges to do a new center for, which is going to put us on the map in immersive learning and help in many of your courses, whether it's in person or face-to-face. So I just want to, again, I can't wait to welcome you back onto the campus, either in person or virtual in more meetings like this. So thank you for this opportunity. We're looking forward to hearing from you. And with that, I'll turn it back to Pablo.
Thank you, Mr. Provost. And now we're going to proceed to our presentations. They are short presentations, and I just want to make sure everybody on this call understands how this Zoom meeting is going to go. As I mentioned earlier, we have been collecting questions that individuals have been submitting, whether that's community members, students, faculty, and staff. And we've helped compile a list of answers and a set of answers that each of our panelists are going to put forth now in their presentations. I do want to remind everyone, please use the Q&A function. I already see that we already have a number of questions that are coming in, and we do know that as questions are answered, more questions can come up. So we ask that you're not shy about it. We want to hear what your thoughts are. We know that there are a lot of questions going into this fall semester. So again, we encourage you to ask. And if we don't have an answer for you, either live from one of the panelists or able to respond in writing as part of the Q&A, we will absolutely go out and find that answer for you and get back to you with the response. Again, we don't want to leave any question unanswered. I too want to thank the provost for your patience and for your commitment. And we know as every day passes, there are more uncertainties that we have to deal with, but we know that we're going to get through this together. And also to congratulate our deans and the programs and the colleges that we have at the Biscayne Bay campus, not only for their contributions for the ranking, Mr. Provost, but I know that you've mentioned it before, but in particular during these times, for their contributions and support to the community at large. And we talk a lot about engagement at the Biscayne Bay campus, and they truly have been engaged and has been a model for universities around the country in terms of how to support their community. So I want to thank them. And a final shout out, I want to put them on the spot, Eddie Morell from External Relations and the team who put that fantastic video together that I know everybody loved over the weekend. So a lot of work taking place here to get ready for today's town hall. So with that, I'm going to turn it over now to our panelists that have some prepared remarks for you. And we're going to start off with our Senior Vice President of Academic and Student Affairs, Dr. Elizabeth Behar.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's truly a pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. I just have some brief remarks. I want to let you know how much we are looking forward to regaining our time together. We have taken a thoughtful approach, a very intentional approach in ensuring that we can begin to repopulate campus in a very methodical manner. And it may be a little bit more methodical than we're used to, that is consistent with the life of the mind of a college student. However, we think that it's going to actually help to support the safety and welfare of our university community. So from housing, be it Bayview, from the Wolf Center, from outdoor wellness and rec activities, where we have a number of activities that are going to continue remote and virtual, and a number of activities that we are planning to ensure that we are engaged and that you are working to ensure a wonderful fall 2020 semester. And with that, I turn it back over to Pablo.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And with that, we have another member of your team that has, I know, a few words to share. Very important in terms of how we're going to proceed into the fall semester. And we're very happy that he's on the panel. He's the AVP of Academic and Student Affairs, Charlie Andrews, that'll share some information around Ask Charlie. So pay attention, in particular students, pay attention. This is very important. So Charlie, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Pablo. So for those of you who may have joined one of our, first of all, good afternoon, all of our Panthers and friends of Panthers who might be joining us today. For those of you who have joined a previous town hall, this won't be new information for you, but we wanted to reiterate it. And for those that this is your first, we wanted to make sure you were aware that as things were changing and the landscape was changing over the summer, the president and the provost both wanted to make sure that we had a place for students to direct questions, specifically questions about the different ways that the courses are going to be offered, which both the president and the provost mentioned that as well during their remarks. So we developed this site, Ask Charlie. Charlie's a real person, meaning me. I exist. I'm a real person, not just an avatar or Bitmoji. But if you go to the site, askcharlie.fiu.edu, you will find a bunch of information about the fall schedule and the different ways that the courses are going to be offered. We calling it the 4 ways. So please, use this site as you're trying to get your fall schedule finalized, or if you have questions about that. And when you go to the site, if you click on the Ask a Question or on the Bitmoji, which looks much younger than I really look, as you can tell, if you click on that, it will take you to, so go ahead and to the next slide. You'll see that there's a form where you can fill out your information and ask your question. So again, I've been getting questions for the last several weeks. Again, specifically things about your schedule or what it's going to look like or what fall is going to be like. So please feel free to use this site to go and ask a question, and I will oftentimes be directing you to other folks, or at times answering your question. There's a lot of great information on the FIU main FAQ page. We have a coronavirus FAQ page on our website that has a lot of amazing information. So I want to encourage you to look at that. Some FAQs that I've gotten on this next, my final slide here has some FAQs that are things that I've been hearing a lot of. So I just wanted to share a couple of these with you. First of all, the students, if you're wondering, how do I know which way my course is being offered? And when you look, or if you're searching for a course, how do I know which way it's being offered? When you look, obviously there's a location information on the site. If the location lists Biscayne Bay campus or Modesta MAD campus, that course is either in person or hybrid. If it says remote, that's one of the courses that's going to be offered remotely. And if it says fully online, that's a course that's meeting fully online. The main difference that you can notice between remote and fully online is that fully online will not have a day or time listed, because you will log into your Canvas site and you'll complete the course for a fully online course at your convenience, as long as you meet all the deadlines. Whereas remote is a course that is actually, you'll log in at the days and times just like you would have if you had been coming to campus. So please, if you're looking for a different option, you can search and see what options are available. I've gotten a lot of questions, and there's been a lot of questions from our international student population. So if there are any international students who are watching or joining us, if you have questions about your immigration status or your paperwork, please make sure that you reach out to the ISSS office, the International Student and Scholar Services office. Their email address is really easy. It's isss@fiu.edu. They also have a lot of FAQs on their site, and they also offer virtual appointments, online virtual appointments. So please reach out to them with your questions if you have any. There's a question here. The third question talks about in-person and hybrid, or what do I do that, is it going to change? Keep in mind that if you take courses that are happening remotely or online, they will stay that way and remain that way throughout the entire semester. So there's no worry that maybe you're further away or a couple counties away and you're taking remote courses and the situation improves, as we all hope it will, and you're going to be forced to come to campus. That won't be the case. If they're remote or fully online, they will stay that way. The opposite, may not be true of the in-person courses. We hope will go as scheduled, but if for some reason the situation warrants and we would need to move to remote, we would do that for everyone's safety. So just wanted to point that out. And then the last, I've gotten lots of questions about campus services. I know I've seen some already on the Q&A. Yes, there are going to be services, the Wolf Center, the Hubert Library, there are going to be services available. So, some may have different, adjusted hours or some other social distancing rules, but that's actually a good segue for some of the other presenters that are going to present this afternoon. So thank you all so much. And again, please feel free to use the Ask Charlie site if you have questions that I can try to help answer for you.
Thank you, Charlie. And I want to reiterate the importance of using the Ask Charlie feature. It's very important. As a leadership team, we want to make sure that in particular our students know where to go to get the answers. And I want to also follow up on the importance of students understanding the difference between fully online and remote courses. If you're still not clear, reach out to Ask Charlie. I mean, this is so important for us that I believe Charlie, after the president, is the only person with his own avatar representing FIU. That's how important this is. No one else has been able to achieve this. So it is critically important that you use that feature, students, moving forward. Charlie mentioned the services available and spaces that are going to be available as we open up in the fall. And with that, actually, it's a perfect segue into our next panelist. He's our Senior Director of the Wolf University Center, Scott Jones. So Scott, it's all yours.
Thank you, Pablo. Next slide, please. Because I think it's actually Andrew that's supposed to be taking the next slide. All right. So, all right. We're back on cue. Sorry, apologies. Well, hello, Panthers. Great to see everyone here and excited to be here myself. I want to let you all know that, while we've all been in remote learning and in remote work, Wolf University Center has continued to remain in operations. We have continued to provide access for our students to access the student food pantry, along with providing service to the information line. So we've been directing a variety of folks who would be entering the facility during operating hours or calling in during extended hours through the information line and been routing those calls accordingly. As well, we've continued with uplighting or construction. And so with Dr. Ortiz, you may notice his background when he comes back up. Notice the new uplighting that Wolf University Center has installed to enhance your experience in the Panther Plaza and as you enter Wolf University Center. As you can see from the slides and a variety of the images, we've also done a variety of things to ensure your safety and our community safety. And as you think about returning to campus and as we begin to repopulate, we want to make sure that you approach everything and thinking about your own safety and the safety of our community. And we're doing everything we can to help facilitate that as you return. And so we've done a variety of things with physical distancing signaging. We've secured electrostatic foggers and trained staff accordingly as it relates to the operation of that. Nightly, we'll be fogging any areas where we know community or staff have been. Daily and routinely, we'll be addressing door handles, elevator buttons, restrooms, all of those high traffic areas will be addressed. We've also installed acrylic panels at face-to-face transaction areas. And as well, we're also looking to bring students back for student employment. And so we've got a variety of opportunities for student employment. And so students on the call, please look at the HR website and consider applying for positions with Wolf University Center and Wellness and Recreation, as we have a variety of positions open, and many of those are in need of, to address our sanitation and our cleaning practices as we welcome community back. Next slide, please. And as we think about wellness and recreation, again, we have been open virtually the entire time that we have been through remote work and remote learning. And so we encourage everyone to visit go.fiu.edu/virtual WRC for all of the opportunities that are provided through Panther Fit TV, fitness training and classes, along with track workshops. And as we prepare for your return, please know that once we're back on site and in person, the process, and we'll get communication out about that, but process will be through reservation only. And as well through Wolf University Center, there will be processes that are through reservation for study, for computer lab, for game room, but as well in wellness and recreation, there will be a reservation process. And in wellness and recreation, it will be a 2-hour window that we will be open, and then we will close for an hour of cleaning, and then it will continue based on posted hours. Additionally, again, with signage, acrylic panels, sanitation of yourself and others through hand sanitizer stations is what we're asking of the community. Additionally, while you've been away, we've continued with renovations in wellness and recreation at MMC. We have completed the renovation of the Panther Hall pool. And at BBC, we are nearing completion for the Olympic pool and diving well, for the outdoor recreation building, more affectionately known here at BBC as OR1. And through collaboration with the Vice Provost Office, we are nearing completion for the new sand volleyball court at Bayview Housing. Next slide. So for event protocols within the student centers, recognizing most everything is highly encouraged to be virtual and hybrid. And both student centers are providing those services within the facility. And so if you're exploring an event and believe it fits into the hybrid or virtual template, please simply just email reservespace@fiu.edu. As well, for in-person events, you should visit reservespace.fiu.edu for event and venue information, recognizing capacities have been adjusted to somewhat less than 50%, and it also requires 2 weeks prior approval. And so you should email protocols@fiu.edu. And again, we ask that anything that's happening on-prem, we continue to want to make sure that folks are following physical distancing guidelines and following Panther Protecting Panthers signage. Next slide, please. For student programming, sorry, this slide just always brings a smile to my face, but through collaboration with our partners in student life and development, student events will be virtual for this fall. And that does include Week of Welcome, club fairs, fraternity sorority life recruitment, and even homecoming will be virtual. And so student organization registration began on August 1st, and certain events may have in-person components, and those will be vetted through our partners with Campus Life and Development and through the external relations protocols reviews. Next slide. And representing our partners in business services and Chartwells, wanted to advise the community as it relates to current operations for dining and the bookstore. Rory's Bay Cafe will continue to operate as it has during the time that we have been remote. And hours of operations are still being determined for the fall, and it's Monday through Friday is the current proposed schedule. Additionally, Barnes & Noble will be working remotely for the fall semester, and Barnes & Noble MMC is open for in-store purchases, and Business Services is still working on a curbside pickup option through a Barnes & Noble app, which is still in development. Additionally, a variety of you may have questions as it relates to Chick-fil-A or Vicky's Cafe. Chick-fil-A is still under construction, and Vicky's Cafe has completed construction, but until we're at a repopulation point, those services aren't currently going to be available. And so for future updates, please visit shop.fiu.edu for up-to-date information. And again, I just want to stress how excited I am for everyone's return. A variety of us have been here throughout, and a special shout out to all of the custodial, all of the maintenance, grounds, university police, everyone who's been here during the time that we have been remote. I give special recognition to the staff that have kept us in operation during that time. And so again, Panthers, stay safe, take care of yourselves and our community. And I turn it back to you, Dr. Ortiz.
Thank you, Scott. You shared a lot of very, very important information. Although I think the highlight for your presentation was you mentioning that Vicky's Cafe and Chick-fil-A are going to be open this fall. I do believe that there are other bits of information that are critically important, so don't go too far. You talked about the spacing, right? The steps that we have taken to ensure that there's adequate social distancing throughout campus. We're going to go back to that question, and I'll ask the provost to chime in on that in just a minute. We have one more presentation, as well as some of the health and safety concerns that are out there, and some of those questions are coming in as well. But let me go to the last presenter, and I apologize, I did reverse the order. This is the challenges of live television, but I want to go back to Andrew Naylor, who is our Director of Housing. And of course, everyone knows we have the fantastic Bayview housing residencies here at the Biscayne Bay campus. So Andrew has some very important information to share with you. Andrew, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Ortiz. So FIU Housing and Bayview have been working very closely over the last few months to develop a plan to welcome students back to campus. And we're so excited that students are going to be able to come back to campus. Much like the MMC students, Bayview Housing has set up a scheduled move-in. And so you're encouraged to visit the student housing portal at my.fiu to schedule that time so that you can move in smoothly without any crowding. Besides all the cleaning that we're going to do, we're electrostatic fogging our buildings, we're cleaning high-touch areas, much like is being done elsewhere on campus. We've set some expectations for students who are going to be living on campus, and that's they wear face coverings, that they physically distance when they're around people. We've limited guests. We're not allowing guests and visitors to visit from outside of the building. You are able to visit people who live within your building though. There's going to be limits to large gatherings, and so some of the lounges and common spaces and amenities on both campuses are going to be closed initially, and we hope to begin opening those up as precautions allow us to do. We're also going to be doing some virtual programs and activities for our students. We realize that, you know, when you're limited from gathering and getting together, that you need to have an outlet. And so these virtual programs and activities that we're planning are going to help with that. Next slide, please. So a little bit about how we're set up in both the campuses. So all the apartments in suites house no more than 4 people and either have 1 bathroom or 2 bathrooms that's shared with those people within the apartment or suite. This creates a pod-like family where you can support each other, you can take care of each other, you'll live with each other and protect each other. It's important that that pod or family, if there's something going on that impacts that family pod, that you let staff know so that we can address it immediately. I also want to let students who are living at Bayview know that they can request to change to a 2-bedroom and have the 2nd bedroom locked off, or change to a 4-bedroom and have one of the bedrooms locked off to reduce density. There is an additional cost to this, but it is an option that's available. Next slide, please. So we are strongly encouraging all students to test for COVID-19 prior to arriving. And if you do find that you're positive, that you delay your move-in. We want you to make sure that you're getting the care that you need from home before you arrive to campus. When you do arrive to campus, there are going to be tests available at the Student Health Center at BBC. Those will be available by appointment. Students who have insurance, it'll be covered by insurance. And if you don't have insurance, it will be covered from CARES money. So either way, students are going to be able to get tested. Next slide, please. So many students have asked what the counseling policies are on both campuses. I know some students who attend BBC classes live at MMC and some live at Bayview. So MMC has a policy that you can cancel without penalty due to your classes going remote or with concerns about COVID-19. And to do that, you just email housing@fiu.edu. In Bayview, while being a private complex, has worked very closely with FIU to create a generous cancellation policy where they are only charging $250, and that $250 can be applied to a spring lease if you decide to come back in the spring. To cancel for Bayview, you'll email info@bayview.com. Next slide. So many who have canceled have asked, is there going to be housing available for the spring? And the answer to that is absolutely. And Bayview has already accepted spring leases. And the MMC housing has also opened up spring agreements for those students who canceled for COVID-19 reasons as of today. Additionally, spring agreements for students who just hadn't ever done a fall agreement at MMC will be available on October 1st. We are very excited to welcome even more students back in the spring. Thank you, Dr. Ortiz.
Thank you, Andrew. And I do want to thank you for all of your efforts as the Senior Director of Housing and Residential Life. We know that you and your team have been working diligently to ensure a very smooth transition, not only when this pandemic first hit, but now bringing students back to the university and making sure that they are safe. And you hit on a couple of safety and health measures. And I know that we have Dr. Roldan on the call, so I'll be asking her a question or two in just a moment. But I also want to recognize that we also have on the call the community manager for Bayview Housing, Christy Zapata, that I know that our residents know her very well as she works and manages the day-to-day operations of our Bayview housing complex there at the Biscayne Bay. So I want to thank her as well for being in the call. And honestly, at this point, I want to thank all our panelists. I know that you have provided a lot of information. You've answered a lot of questions that we received prior to the town hall today. But as I mentioned early on, in our presentation, we have already questions that are coming in, and we've also chosen a couple of questions that we feel that although they might have been answered in writing to someone specific, are important to answer here live on the Zoom call, because it really warrants a broader response so that everybody is very clear. And of course, as we can all imagine, the health and safety of everyone coming back to campus, whenever that is, whether it's at the beginning of the semester, as the provost mentioned, we do have students and staff that will be coming back to the campus in smaller numbers at the beginning of the fall term, as well as later on. We'll start hopefully seeing that migration back to a more in-person culture that we're so used to and we enjoy so much here at the university. But however, health and safety is still prominent, right? And first and foremost is, I think there's an important question that speaks to what will students expect to see when they get back to campus? What's going to look different? And the first question here is from an anonymous attendee, and it says, will there be a student limit per classroom due to COVID restrictions? And I know Scott talked about how some of the classrooms would look, but I think that overall plan is important to talk about what our plans are in terms of how we're going to set up the classrooms and how we're going to ensure everyone's health and safety. And I don't think there's anyone better to answer that than our provost, Dr. Furton.
Thank you, Dr. Ortiz. Yeah, so I changed my virtual background and give you an example of one particular classroom. And so we have adjusted it there in some of our fixed seating classrooms. You know, we've marked off areas so that there will be a 6-foot distancing between students. And in the cases where we can move the chairs around, like in this active learning classroom, you'll see that there's 6-foot spacing between the students and the faculty will be wearing face coverings. So it's essentially a redundancy plan, right? You're going to keep the physical distancing and have the face covering so that when you're in the classroom, we try to minimize the risk associated with any potential spread of COVID-19. So what this has meant is that in some of our very large lecture halls, the capacity was reduced to such an extent, as well as the difficulty in cleaning those rooms, that we've moved some of our very large lectures into synchronous remote format, because that is, for the fall term, the safest approach for our faculty and staff and our students. And some of those large lecture halls, rather than having normal lectures in there, they're actually going to be used as essentially like studios, where the professor may be lecturing in a synchronous format to you as the students, or maybe recording lectures into an asynchronous online format. So as you will see when you come on campus, we've got, as was mentioned, plexiglass and the same precautions that you may have seen at other businesses. So yes, the classrooms have been adjusted, significantly reduced capacity. To put that in perspective, in many cases, it may be only a third of the capacity. In some cases, like the lecture halls, it could be as little as 15% of the students can safely be put into a large lecture. So that's part of the reason that we're limiting the number of students who are going to be in person to minimize any potential exposure to you.
Great, thank you, Provost. And I think we've said this before, but it's important to remind everyone that despite how well organized and how well we've arranged our spaces, our classrooms, and we have stickers on the ground, and we have signage throughout the campus, This is really about Panthers protecting Panthers. It's on all of us to ensure that we keep each other safe, that we are adhering to all of these policies and guidelines. And of course, with that comes a greater understanding of the health risks and the steps and measures that you can take to ensure you're healthy and you're keeping those around you healthy. Andrew mentioned the COVID testing that's going to be made available. And that's great news that we're going to have that testing. And I want to recognize Dr. Anita Roldan, who is our CEO of FIU Health, the Healthcare Network. As of today, we've tested over 30,000 community members, and correct me if that number is still too low, Anita, but over 30,000 community members have been tested by our team. Really speaks to what engagement is all about and providing that service. It's so important. But Anita, this is much more than just getting a test, right? This isn't about everybody just going out of the health clinic and wanting to get a test. Talk to us about what are some important health measures that the students and the staff should be taking, what they should be looking out for, and what they need to do in the event that they feel that they need to get a test.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Ortiz, and good afternoon to everyone. I'm so happy to see so many of you participating this afternoon in such an informative town hall. There's nothing greater than to educate ourselves and to communicate with full transparency of this great challenge that we are all facing. And you're absolutely right. We do have the availability of testing for our students, not only at our BBC clinic, but there's also testing around in the area at the CVS and Walgreens, and we do have county sites throughout. None of them so close to our BBC campus, but we do have our clinic, and like I said, we have Walgreens and CVS. However, testing is just one of the tools that we have. The best tool we have is called ourselves, because we know that this is a virus that is new. This is a virus that is airborne. This is a virus that the way that we can prevent it is through the mechanisms of what we do to protect ourselves and others. And that is called something as simple as wearing a mask, something as simple as not congregating, not to be in large groups, to be able to watch your social distancing, wash your hands. And if you're sick, please stay home. These are very, very simple guidelines that we need to follow. Just because we take a test, we're getting better at the test, but we know that the test is as good as that day. Therefore, if we test today, but then we do not watch those preventive measures that we all know, which are the only tools that we have in our armamentarium, we could get sick a few days after. So before we get to the test, let us all prevent. And if we do get the virus, we know we have a support system. But let us all prevent in helping ourselves, we help others. So that's the best guideline that we can have. And I assure you that FIU and this great team has taken all the safeguards that that we know, and we will continue to know. And every day we learn, and with every day that we learn, we add even more guidelines. And just to let you know that you are supported by an evidence-based guideline. This is not a hearsay. This is by science, and that's what drives us. So thank you, Dr. Ortiz. I hope that answers the question.
Absolutely. Thank you, Anita. And as you mentioned, very important, just simply getting the test done and finding out that you are negative doesn't mean that we're clear, right? I mean, we still have to continue to work to protect each other and to keep our campus safe. But I want to switch over to safety now, because I think that's an important topic to bring up at this point, because we have received questions not only for this town hall, but previous town halls, right? And what does enforcement look like on our campus? Who do we expect to enforce some of these challenges, right? If a student sees other students that are not adhering to the health and safety guidelines, if we see people on campus that aren't necessarily walking around with the masks, what should students do? And I'm going to involve two of you in this response. So on the medical side, Dr. Roldan, I'll have you just weigh in, but also Major Gomez as our representative and our head officer over at the Biscayne Bay campus, who everybody knows, by the way, for anyone that is from the Biscayne Bay campus, I know you know Major Gomez, to talk a little bit about how to work together in the BBC community to ensure that we're all safe. So Anita, maybe you could talk about really how to handle some of that, and then Major Gomez on your end as well, how to best proceed if we see those that maybe either have forgotten or have chosen not to adhere to the health protocols and guidelines.
Well, one of the things I want to say that this is collective action, that it's not just one individual, one unit. This is all of us. And we know that, yes, as human beings, we may forget things, but the mask is here to stay. We know that we will live with this virus not only for the next few months, but possibly for a year or two. So that should be just part of who we are. The same way that we got used to wearing a seatbelt, the same way that we got used to wearing a helmet, the same way that we got used to not smoking indoors. This is now our new normal. And the best way is for us to be role models in order for others to follow. So in case that you see someone that have forgotten the mask, remind them. And probably it might not be a bad idea for you to carry 1 or 2 masks extra. Just like if anyone forgets something at home and you have some extra to share, because that shows that this is a collective responsibility and that we are all out for each other and for everyone on campus and for the safety and health of everyone.
Major Gomez?
Doctor, one thing that I could tell you, we'll be working with the staff of all the buildings, and our officers will be out there walking, and like the doctor said, we'll be the ones carrying extra mask. Our officers, as they're walking, if somebody forgets their mask, we'll be able to provide them one, or if their mask breaks, we'll give them one. But our main focus will be educating people that are not following social distancing. We'll be out there, make sure they follow the protocols that they've been given by the student guide.
Thank you, Anita and Major. And what I'm hearing, right, confrontation is not the answer here, right? No one is being called upon to serve as the campus police and confront those that are not necessarily adhering to these guidelines. Education is key, education is power. Let's work together to remind each other of the importance of following those guidelines, and then only together, right, we're going to be able to ensure that our campus remains safe. So thank you both. I want to switch over now to housing. And Andrew, as I mentioned before, does an outstanding job of managing that entire portfolio of housing residencies that we have, but very specific, right, in terms of Bayview. So maybe Andrew, both you and Christy Zapata as the community manager for Bayview can chime in on this. There are students now that will be or are in Bayview housing. And as we can imagine, there's a very high degree of concern in terms of who they should reach out to, what's the best way to communicate, what if there's something breaks out or someone is found to be tested positive at the Bayview residencies. So the first part of that question is, who should they be reaching out to in the event that they see something or witness something or have heard of something at Bayview, right? The students, from what we see in these questions, they want real time, on time, and accurate responses to their questions. So what is the best way and the best mechanism to get those answers, in particular about Bayview?
So Christy, if you'll come online and I'll let you answer that question.
Hi, Andrew. So for any questions that are directed towards Bayview, and if you have any concerns, you can reach out to our info@bayviewfiu.com. That email address goes to myself as well as our assistant community manager, James Nash. So we field the questions between us and forward them to different team members that we have, should they be able to help us with them. If you have an urgent matter, like if you know of someone who becomes positive, or yourself, if you find out or you're worried about being positive and you have to quarantine, please feel free, to reach out to us as soon as you can. You can also call the RA on call phone number. They will get to us as soon as you call. That phone number is 786-779-1224. So the RA on call is for any emergencies that would be considered an emergency, and they will contact us. We'll reach out to you, and we will go forward with our plan to relocate you should we have to, if you're positive or presumptive positive, to MMC at that time.
Thank you, Christy. That provides a lot of reassurance, but if you can, like they do in commercials, we'll repeat it one more time so the folks can remember. Can you repeat that email address again?
Yes, so it's info@bayviewfiu.com. You can either address it to myself, Christy Zapata, or James Nash. He's my assistant community manager, and the both of us work together to either answer the question ourselves or field it to someone on our staff that can best assist you. And then for the RA on call phone, it's 786-779-1224. Once our front desk becomes open and active, which will happen shortly, either the end of this week or the beginning of next week, that we'll have our front desk hours as well. So if you have any other questions besides becoming positive with COVID, then you can feel free to come down in person to us. But if it is a COVID related question, we ask that you stay in your unit until we're able to contact you and come up with our plan of action.
Thank you, Christy. So what I'm hearing is that although that your team is still working remotely to some degree, there are still people available to answer questions either via email or over the phone. So that's good to know, and I'm sure that the students appreciate that. So I'm going to continue on this path, this conversation, right? And as I mentioned, we do have students that are currently living at Bayview. There'll be a few more that will be joining us in the fall. And their concerns and their anxiety about returning, about being physically in person, can obviously impact students greatly, right? On a personal note, my daughter will be returning to campus. She'll be in housing at a university, and none of us are sleeping well, right? Because we're going into an unknown and concerned. So let's talk about what types of services are available. And I know that we have our counseling and psychological services that's available to students that they can reach out. I know we have our AVP, Dr. Brenny Garcia, that's also ready to answer the questions. So Dr. Garcia, maybe I can put you on the spot to talk a little bit about the counseling and psychological services, what's available, and really what kinds of other services are available to our students.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Ortiz. Hello, everybody. So to first address specifically the counseling question, our BBC office continues to be operational Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. However, we have been virtual, as most of our services have been through the end of spring and in the summer. In the fall, we've been getting a lot of questions about whether or not there will be in-person services. We will be providing a limited amount of in-person counseling sessions. However, we don't have the final hours of operation just yet. Those are being finalized with our team, and we can hopefully make that announcement next week to everybody. But one important thing for the students to note is that we will not be taking walk-in appointments as we normally do. Everything has to be call ahead. So if you are having if you're in crisis at the moment, you just need to talk to somebody, please call the office, which is extension 5305, and I'll put that in the chat for everybody, to make sure that you can call to see if a clinician is available to see you in person, or if you could just schedule something for another day. But again, the regular 8 to 5 telehealth hours will continue in the fall. That won't change. Just a reduction of in-person appointments. This is also going to be true for all healthy funded areas, right? So Dr. Roldan in the clinics, my team with Healthy Living, Dean of Students, DRC, all of your services that are funded by your health fee will be operational, just in a different capacity. So please be attentive to your emails. At the end of this week, we will be sending to all students what's called the Student Health and Wellness Resource Guide. And that's going to be a summary of a lot of this information, right? So which offices are going to be operational, what are their phone numbers, their email addresses, what do you have to do before coming to campus, like taking the COVID-19 course on Canvas, the P3 app, all of that good stuff that we've been emailing you about that I recognize can be very overwhelming because we're sending a lot of information out. Please be attentive to that email because it summarizes all of it very beautifully and hopefully can address a lot of the questions in preparation for fall.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. You mentioned the P3 app, and I'm going to be going to that in just a second. Great information, and I think it's important to note, and we've heard the president say it before. Although we went remote back in March, the university never closed. Right? We continued to work, we continued to build, we continued to improve. You saw it in the video, the great improvements on this campus, but all of the services and all the commitments, and an incredible shout out to our faculty that over a 3-day period back in the spring semester converted all of our courses to a remote setting to ensure that students had access to their courses, that were able to graduate on time, that were able to continue their studies into the summer. Amazing to think that our summer enrollment numbers for this past summer were actually higher than last summer. So that just shows how great the support was that the faculty was able to answer. And also, I just want to point out that although the campus, not only BBC, but also MMC, the campus will look and feel different. That is true, but that doesn't mean that we are not there. We are there for you. It's just going to feel a little bit different, but know that we are there and we're going to provide every service that we always have. So with that, I'm going to jump to the P3 app. A lot of comments have been made and questions have been asked about the P3 app. Our CIO, Robert Grillo, is on the call. I know him and his team have been working very hard for the last few months to put that together as yet another tool, another mechanism that we're going to use to stay informed and to ensure the health and safety and well-being of our entire FIU family. So, Mr. Grillo, why don't you walk us through the P3 app and share some of that information with everyone?
Thank you, Dr. Ortiz. And as Dr. Ortiz mentioned, so the Panthers Protecting Panthers app is part of our overall repopulation strategy. It is a web-based Apple and Android app that will be going live on August 17th. So we are working to make the final communications with our partners in external relations to ensure that we announce that. Again, August 17th will be the go live date, and it is required for all faculty, students, and staff to fill out this app prior to coming to campus. So if you don't come to campus, you're not required to fill it out. You're only required for you to come to campus, and that will actually be on a daily basis. So if you come to campus every day, we're asking you to please to follow through and to respond to the app on a daily basis as well. To give you a little bit of a brief overview on the P3 app, it is a P3 app that is actually doing a screen check for symptoms. It is following strictly the CDC guidelines. And based on how you answer the app, it will let you know that it's okay to come to campus, or it might actually give you a different answer depending if you have symptoms or not. And it might actually tell you not to come to campus and to stay home and monitor symptoms. Or actually another option it might tell you is to also not come to campus, stay home and also get a COVID-19 test. And that information will all be made available via the app. So it will actually give you not only the daily updates of the information that we're sharing as it relates to COVID-19, but anything that you need to do from a follow-up perspective. In addition, I know Dr. Trepka is on as well. There is a COVID-19 response team that is actually will be also helping the university with this. And there will be the possibility that if you do need a follow-up or you do need a test, the COVID-19 response team here at FIU will be more than happy to help you to ensure that you get the necessary information or any necessary follow-ups as it relates to testing. So with that, again, looking forward to each and every one of you to please utilize the P3 app. As I mentioned, it is part of the overall strategy, and I think it will make us a much more safer campus if we all have compliance and everybody utilize the app. Thank you, Dr. Ortiz.
Thank you, Mr. Gill, and I agree with you 100%. It's critically important that everybody completes that P3 app. It goes back to our effort to ensure that Panthers are protecting Panthers, right? And it's important to answer those questions, to answer them honestly, so that we know what steps to take and how to help mitigate any challenges that might be coming our way. So we thank you for putting that together and ensuring that we have a vehicle to capture some of this information so that we can keep our FIU family informed. So I'm going to switch channels now a little bit, and this is an interesting question that I don't think we thought of prior to this town hall, and I'm glad it was asked. And it talks about the challenges with the county's curfew, right? So the current Miami-Dade County has a curfew of 10 p.m. And we have a student that asked what we recommend for students who have classes or are commuting home or have to take a shuttle after 10 p.m. How does this affect them? So I'm going to pass this over to our head of parking and transportation for the university, Mr. Tom Hartley, and maybe you could shed some light on some of those regulations and how students can deal with this.
Certainly. Thank you, Dr. Ortiz, for the opportunity to participate in the town hall. I believe the question is around the emergency order 27-20. And in section number 3 of that emergency order, it depicts that the order is exempt, basically not to restrict any Miami-Dade County school district or any state or federal facility. So that order would not pertain to us providing transportation or students coming and going to or from classes.
Great, thank you for that. And again, thank you for the question. Very insightful, and I know that students are going to feel much more at ease understanding a bit more about the county curfew, so they'll know what to do with it. So let's talk a few minutes on a bit lighter note, right? This is obviously a very serious conversation, and we're committed to providing you the answers to these very pressing questions. But there's a question that's interesting here, and I'm going to send this one over to one of our deans, right? We talk at Biscayne Bay about the experiences that not only students, but faculty and our community members have. And we have, on an ongoing basis, community members and our students engaging in great educational experiences. And one question that came up, because it was so successful, were experiences like the David Grutman experience through our Chaplain School of Hospitality and Tourism Management. The enrollment, I think, was capped almost immediately. Once the announcement went out, we had great attendance, great participation. And now here we are in a remote environment with, the inability to meet fully in person. So our dean, Michael Cheng, is here to talk a little bit about what that experience is going to look like, and hopefully keep everybody calm that this is not going away. Dean Cheng.
Thank you, Dr. Ortiz. Well, as you said, it is quite an experience. So for the David Grutman Experience class, maintaining the integrity of the class and the learning objectives of the class is very important. So we work closely with the instructor as well as academic space management to identify the patio outside of the HM building where we can fit upwards of 150 chairs with proper spatial distancing and following all recommended guidelines like masks on at all times, putting out multiple hand sanitizers, and clear directional signage. And remember, we're outdoors on the patio, which makes it even better. So when we have our off-site sessions at his restaurants, we will be scheduling multiple days for the students so that we can continue to maintain the necessary spatial distancing as well as reinforce the mask and hand washing. And this will be another fantastic class from the King of Miami Hospitality, David Grutman. And we're very, very excited to be able to offer this to our students again.
Thank you, Dean Chang, and we appreciate that. And we know, again, it was a very popular course. I'm not going to put you on the spot right now for the other course of concern, which was the wine tasting lab. Maybe we can talk about that at another time. But again, these are the types of great in-person experiences that we've had at the university, and in particular at the Biscayne Bay campus. And those that are on this call are concerned. And by the way, I do want to mention that we have over 400 participants that are right now either watching or participating in the call. And we want to thank everybody for joining us. And we hope that what we've done so far has provided you a great deal of information and a lot of answers to the questions that you have submitted. So I'm going to go back to another question. And Dr. Roldan, this is going to go back to you and actually a very important question to understand. And here's the question. It comes to us from Facebook, right? What information do we have about the duration of exposure? So we understand that masks provide protection, but it would seem that risk would increase with lengths of exposure. So if you have students together a long time in a classroom, what does that do to our risk, and how do we manage that? So a very good question. So maybe you can answer that for us.
Sure, thank you, Dr. Ortiz, and a great question. Exposure is actually defined as 6 feet or less and more than 15 minutes without wearing a mask. In fact, that is one of the important questions when we're doing contact tracing for what we call close contact. Now, in addition, we also know that being inside a building where a large group are congregating obviously also increases the risk. It's not as much outside when you're outside and you are in open air. So again, exposure is without a mask, less than 6 feet or less, more than 15 minutes, and risk increases if you're inside a building. So that's why the mask is extremely important. Now, again, wearing a mask, but very close contact, and in for long periods of time may increase exposure as well, because there could be touching, you could be touching face, you could be touching surfaces. So therefore, the idea is to wear your mask, still keep that social distancing, and continue to wash your hands. So reduce the number of individuals around you. So congregating is not a good thing, even with wearing masks.
So thank you for that. And it actually brings up another question that was asked, right? So it's important to minimize exposure and to limit the number of individuals coming together, right? But we know that our campuses many times serve as areas for students to come and study and to, conduct their academic business, right? And they use our resources on campus. So I know it was mentioned briefly, and I'm going to go back to Scott Jones on this. What is the campus doing to provide areas for study, right, for students? Have we designated certain areas of the campus? Have we laid out certain areas of the campus to ensure that students have space to study? Do we have a study hall at the campus that has been designated, or will this be more in terms of small pods and areas around Biscayne Bay? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Certainly. Currently, we're looking at outdoor seating and appropriate signage for all of the outdoor seating, whether that's table, whether that's benches, all those kinds of things in an outdoor capacity. As well, within the student center and student centers, actually, we're looking at a study hall kinds of function. And so we're working collaboratively with the library through a reservation process that would be a study hall kinds of function. And so both Graham Center and Wolf Center is working collaboratively with the libraries to explore how we set this up in a reservation process so that we know when students are coming in specifically for a study hall function. Recognizing, however, that we still have community space. So in Graham Center, along with the Partners of Business Services, the amount of the first floor that is a dining function still allows for that community engagement piece. And we're also allowing that on the first floor of Wolf University Center. And so we will still allow students to come in and be studying in those locations. Facial covering is required unless individuals are eating. And as well, if individuals are looking for more of a quiet location, then between Graham Center and Wolf Center, we're also identifying those locations that may be a little bit off the beaten path that it can allow for a little bit more private and quiet study space that would be through a reservation process. And that communication will be coming out.
Great, thank you, Scott, for that. Good information as well. I want to pass it back over to the provost and maybe also Amy Aiken or Major Gomez can chime in on this. As it stands right now, as of right now, faculty and others coming to campus need to have a special permission to come onto campus, right? They have a special letter that they need to show, or they're on an approved list of individuals that could be on campus. When do we foresee that ending? How does that process look to change in the coming weeks as we get closer to the start of the semester?
Yeah, so maybe I can start with on August 24th, when we will have actually even some of the professional programs start August 17th. If you are in classes that register for classes that are still in person or hybrid, you will be asked to do that Panthers Protecting Panthers app, and then you're welcome to come on campus. But all the campuses and even regional locations are really going to be by appointment. So the idea being you've got an appointment to be on campus for your class, or you've got reservations in the residence halls. And then once you're on campus, of course, you can participate in the university centers and so forth. And so it's a very different approach, right? It's not that general members of the community and students can come into the library whenever they want. The idea will be you will reserve a spot in the library. So we'll have tables arranged, and you'll reserve them in, say, 2-hour time blocks with an hour in between, so that we can ensure that we can disinfect the area and make it the area safe for the next students to come in. So really, that August 24th is the opening of the fall term for most undergraduates, at least, with maybe a little bit earlier for professional programs, and that could be delayed for some programs as well, depending on, we're working through the various different options in terms of some programs could have a remote beginning, so essentially a delayed on-campus occupancy. So the key thing is that anyone coming on campus, whether they're faculty, staff, students, or even vendors would have to go through the same process of the self-screening before they would come in and be on campus. And we would ask you to basically, if you have questions about this, to talk with your advisor, talk with depending on your reason for being on campus, ask questions before you come on campus. But that is the short answer is that August 24th is the main date in which you would have a significant number. Now, we've already had student athletes back on campus. We've also had, like I say, professional programs coming on campus. So it's going to be sort of a phased-in approach. And the key thing is to reach out to us so that we can ensure that when you are on campus, we can minimize the risk associated with coming out. So I don't know if maybe Senior Vice President Behar wants to add to that a little bit as well, because she's been in the front lines already with the return of students before the actual in-person classrooms have begun.
Thank you, Mr. Provost. I appreciate that. And I think you've handled the response very thoroughly. And again, in my opening remarks, I mentioned about methodical behavior. We're not trying to control people. What we're actually trying to do is to make sure that we can manage the cleaning and the disinfecting of spaces where people have been. And so that's really why, particularly at the beginning of this fall semester, when you come to campus, it needs to be a planned event. You need to have a reservation, an appointment, and a reservation to study at the library or a study space in the Wolf Center, or an appointment to see somebody, so that we can actually, through those processes behind the scenes, really know what our density of population is, and so that we can support the community with the appropriate safety standards behind the scenes. So thank you.
So Mr. Provost or Dr. Behar, for faculty who are still asking questions, and we did receive several questions regarding faculty returning to offices, faculty returning back to campus, how should they communicate, or who should they ask to get updated information? I know that we send frequent information from our external relations team, and we post a lot of information on the website, but should they have a specific question, where should they turn, who should they be asking in order to get those answers?
So if I may, and I saw the question come through on the chat. Thank you, Neil. I hope you and yours are well. The repopulation task force of the university is actually meeting tomorrow with the hopes that, as this is dynamic, certainly a moving target, that we can establish some clear protocols in the short term and make those recommendations to the president and the provost. And the president and provost, I believe, will be hosting a faculty town hall later this week and provide that updated guidance to faculty, because we do know that that many faculty want to return to their offices, even if they are working individually and carefully. And so we want to provide some guidance on that. Every building, there are many buildings that are on electronic swipe, but other buildings have different systems. And so we want to make sure that we're looking at this as comprehensively as possible, and hopeful that the provost can provide some comprehensive response in partnership with HR and facilities no later than the end of this week.
Thank you for that, Dr. Behar, and I think you'd agree with me, being on the repopulation task force, every time we meet, whether it's once a week or 4 times in a week, every one of those discussions highlights new challenges and new realities that we have to deal with as a university. So that's why, to the provost's comment at the very beginning of this conversation, we thank you for your patience and understanding. This is a very dynamic situation, very fluid, and we are working very hard to try to keep everyone as safe as possible, but also ensure the integrity of our academic enterprise, right? And making sure that everybody gets what they need at the university. I'm proud to say that we're almost at the end, just about at the end, and we've answered, I think, most of the questions, but I do want to repeat that we know and we understand that as questions are asked and they're answered, it just generates potentially more questions. So this is not the end of the conversation. We encourage you to ask and send more questions. Remember, in case you forgot, that very good looking avatar, Ask Charlie. Go into Ask Charlie, ask your questions. Charlie and his team are committed to ensuring that everybody on this call that you see, whether it's panelists or behind the scenes folks, are getting those questions, and we're working very hard to answer them. One final comment, and I know that there had been some questions previously about it. We all know, and we've already heard, that our local school districts are partners that we work very closely with, and we actually share our campus with, right? We have a high school that we share a campus with at Biscayne Bay, Mast. They have chosen to begin the year remotely, and we continue to work with the school districts and our partners in the school districts to ensure that our plans are integrated and well thought out and are developed in such a way that not only protect our students, but also protect our working staff and giving them as much information and opportunity as possible. Mass construction continues. They have not stopped to work on the new high school, and we're working very closely with them. And Mr. Provost, you mentioned the expectation of vendors. Construction teams or anyone else that's on campus is expected to adhere to all of our safety and health guidelines at the campus as well. So we urge you again to even consider them as part of our Panther family. And again, I repeat, Panthers protecting Panthers is the only way that we're gonna come out of this all in a better place at the end of the day. So with that, again, I wanna thank all the panelists. I wanna thank everybody for who that participated, the over 400 listeners and viewers that are out there as part of this call. And with that, Mr. President, I kick it over to you for your final words and thoughts.
Thank you so much, Pablo, and thank you, everyone, our panelists, and all the excellent questions that we received. I'm very encouraged by this gathering. Panthers protecting Panthers, that's what it's all about. Everybody takes a little bit of responsibility and looks out for themselves and looks out for others, thinks about the larger consequences of not following the rules, and we will be fine. Lately, I've been doing some reading to try to understand how better to cope with the challenges after challenges, with the problems after problems that we've been confronting since March. And you know that I talk a lot about our graduation ceremonies, in part because that's what we do. And I personally draw strength from the success of our students and our faculty and our professional staffs in meeting their obligations and meeting your obligations to your community, to your fellow professionals, to our students. And I've been reading about optimism. I've been reading about trying to understand how we maintain our optimism in the face of the many challenges that we have. And I've come across this concept of relentless optimism. And I want to recommend it to you. I want to recommend to you the notion that the book that addresses it is a book that's just a story about, could have been one of us or anybody who had to confront some serious challenges. But in that, the point that is made is that it's easy to be optimistic in the good times when things are really going well. The question is, can we maintain our optimism when things aren't going so well? And so drawing strength from the things that are going well is very, very important. Drawing strength from the mission that we have, the purpose that we have, the student success that we thrive on, I find is a way to maintain our optimism. Hearing how we are in a very forthright manner addressing these challenges that we have. And it's not just us as educators, but educators all over the country are trying to figure out a way to keep that hope alive, to keep learning vibrant and meaningful and helpful to people. That's what we are all about these days. So I want to encourage you to maintain your optimism. FIU historically is populated with people who are optimistic, who are can-do, who can get things done, who want to know what's next, who want to build, who want to help, who want to grow. That's our FIU. That's us. And now more than ever, we're going to need that spirit of optimism, of relentless optimism, to make sure that we can meet and exceed the expectations of all of our stakeholders. I think gatherings like this are helpful. Clearly, not all the questions have been answered as well as maybe you wanted, but a lot of these questions are things we've never had to confront before, and we're confronting now. And the questions will help us to get sharper and better and to maintain the optimism that'll drive the hope that will ensure that the opportunities that our students seek are going to be realized through our efforts, working together, collaborating, focusing on that next horizon. We will get this done. So I want to thank you all for that hope that you bring, that optimism that you have. And if we can stick together, if we can focus on how to help others, we're going to be just fine and we're going to get through this. So thank you all very, very much. And now we'll go to our concluding song, FIU, Remember the Name.
You ready? Pause up. Yeah. For those of you that want to know what FIU is all about, it's like this. FIU's 10% skill, 20% gotta, 15% concentrated power colada, 5% respect, 50% bold, and 100% the reason we rep the blue and gold. From Sun Blazers to Rory, ready to tell the story. Starting in 65, they filled with all the glory. 3 bowls in a row, learning across the globe. Student diversity, this is the place that you should know. Began with just one tower, this our time, this is our hour. Dying in GC and experience our Panther power. You heard of BBC? Kicking it by the seas. Might visit Aquarius, located next to the Keys. We're the 305. Truly the home team, reppin' 305. You know that's just literally from humble beginnings, but not how we end. There's about 142 countries in our blend. A melting pot, international's our middle name. Once you're a Panther, look, we're all just the same. Creating special strides, leaping until we soar. Fostering Panther pride for those who warm, hear us roar. This is 20% flair, 80% grit, be 100% emerging and never willing to quit. High scoring on the bar, students learning the law. I can hear the president yelling out, Mazel Tov, on our way to top 50. Center for New Solution, wall of wind to blow you away and cancel pollution. We have more programs than any school can say. Finish in 4 years, everybody knows the way. FIU's 10% skill, 20% gotta, 15% concentrated power colada, 5% respect, 50% bold, and 100% the reason we rep the blue and gold. FIU's 10% skill, 20% gotta, 15% concentrated power colada, 5% respect, 50% bold, and 100% the reason we rep the blue and gold. Supposedly, we have some competition, but the best school in South Florida doesn't see the opposition. We're known to be global with our mission. Croquet that straight from Vikings, fried to great condition. When you talk about greatness, don't forget the blue and gold. 8th and 107th Ave has become our second home. With a friend like Rory, you can never feel alone. Welcome to Panther Hall, just know this building's always cold, but with the trail of torch, you will always feel the heat. Give light to generations that will keep the legacy, keep it moving. And don't you ever lose the trust. In this FIU family, they won't let you give up. FIU's 10% skill, 20% gotta, 15% concentrated power colada, 5% respect, 50% bold, and 100% the reason we rep the blue and gold. FIU's 10% skill, 20% gotta, 15% concentrated power colada, 5% respect, 50% bold, and 100% the reason we rep the blue and gold. So, did that help you? Do you finally know what this university is all about? have one request, and one request only. We're FIU. Remember the name.
Mr. President, great song.